Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and video show which brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, and experience from hundreds of successful individuals around the world. I'm your host, Frits Bussemaker, and today I'm pleased to have a conversation with Rodger Halston. Rodger, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Rodger, brief introduction to who you are, because that's what we're going to cover. You are a multi-talented entertainer, an actor, singer, speaker, musician, writer, director, acting coach. Done a lot of work on TV, film, and stage around the world. And also, I don't know if that's a side gig or not, but we're going to discuss that. Also, the founder and president of Amera Distributors in the beauty industry.
Yes.
So that's my very brief introduction to who you are. And now we're going to find out, okay, how did you get where you are at the moment? Because you're based in Norway at the moment, I understand.
I am living in Norway. I spent the bulk of my life in Malibu, California, Los Angeles area, working in the industry there, but moved to Norway and been coming to Norway since 2015.
Okay. Well, in your benefit, I'm wearing my Norwegian sweater.
Love that.
Yeah. And so, multi-talented entertainer. Quick question. How did that all start?
You know, I was born, my family on both sides are artists, performers, painters, writers. So I grew up in a home filled with the arts, if you will. And I often say I was born a vampire. I really, from day one, my dad actually had me, he did a lot of performing in music industry in the States. And when I was 4 years old, I was performing with him on stage at conventions and concerts such. So literally right after I learned to walk, I was performing and somehow I knew that was always what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go in life.
By the way, do you have any siblings?
I do. I have one sister and two younger brothers. They're all younger than I am, who
Okay.
all still live in the US.
And are they all following the family path of being in the entertainment industry or not?
No, oh, my younger brother, he's actually in the church work as a preacher, pastor, spreading the good news. And no, my other two siblings did not. I think my younger brother and I really had, if you will, genetically
Mhm.
more of the arts in us than my two other siblings, but we're all cut from the same cloth.
Okay, but at a very young age, four, uh,
Yep.
started to perform on stage. Uh, I can imagine at a certain moment you wake up and say, "Hey, wait a minute. This is the only thing I've known for my whole life so far." So how did
Yeah.
you know that's also how you wanted to continue? And have you ever felt tempted to do something else? And
You know, that's a great question because as it would be the arts world, and it doesn't matter which form you're working in or your passion is in, is not very faithful to the performer, the writer, the painter. And so there was always in the back of my mind, maybe I should go to university and use what talents I have from performing in the field of either law or politics, television, news, broadcasting, that type of thing, teaching, which I love children. So I thought about that and did go to university. But the call for me to move towards what I really loved was so strong, I couldn't let that go ever. But I would say, absolutely, I always knew I should have a backup. And I have to say, my grandfather really was great about learn as many things as you can learn. You'll never know what you need to fall back on. And in the process, I actually did an interview the other day and I said, I counted jobs that I was paid for
yeah.
since I was a kid. And I've had 64, if you will, jobs in different industries from teaching to a variety of things, because I always knew the more I knew how to do, if anything failed, I always had something to fall back on.
Good. Now, but even as an entertainer, very versatile, as mentioned, multi-talented, is something which I would say is dominant, or are they all equally important to you?
Probably, I would say music was the real, I would say more dominant because my family growing up were all very musical. In fact, anytime we got together, it was a music jam session. And I can hear music and play it.
Hmm.
Play by ear would be the
Yeah.
term. And I also took formal education on piano, which was fantastic for me to combine the two. I would say to this day, if there's one thing that I can always go back to, whether I'm by myself or performing, it's music. And so, from the artistic standpoint, I would say that maybe was more dominant. But from the acting side, that also was extremely strong. And I knew that I had a gift to do that. And that all stems back to that artistic genetic code, I think, that I had. But to answer your question, I think music
Okay.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Can you expand on that? I knew I had a gift. How does that, can you make that more concrete?
There were, I love this quote by Rumi. What you seek is seeking you. And my thing really was whether it was always calling me from the beginning musically. As I said, I started with my dad performing at age 4. Whether it was a school play, some kind of performance, there was always this voice inside me going, go there, do that. And I recognized that I had talent to do that and gift and was lucky and blessed. I believe there's a lot of people who would love to do things, but maybe don't have the talent internally to accomplish that. And I had that musical gift, I had that artistic gift, and recognized that really early on.
Now, to what extent, if you're multi-talented, does that also mean you have to compromise? I mean, I can see people, I'm going to focus on just being a singer. I'm going to focus on just being an actor because then I can be good in my profession. I can train that. So to what extent?
Absolutely. My dad said to me so many times, he said, you're so good at so many things. I'm great. I'm athletic. I'm good in sports, music, all of the things we've discussed. And he said, Rodger, find one and really concentrate on that. Jack of all trades, master of none. And so I really thought, well, you know what? I'm moving to LA. I had an opportunity. The doors open. That's the other thing. Not only did I have the talent, but the doors were just kept opening and going in the direction of where my heart was calling me. And after I had been in LA a number of years and had done television and film, I was also at the same time doing music. And I got a call from management and agencies in Nashville, and they wanted me to move to Nashville to pursue the country music, Delta blues music genre. And I went to Nashville, fell in love with Nashville and the people. I think when I arrived there, it was like my people. I really loved it there. I'm getting chills telling you. And when I left Nashville, the key element was I needed to move to Nashville. And when I arrived back in LA, I spent a good few days trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And at that point in my life, I thought, wow, I've just now done 4 or 5 back-to-back movies. I've been on television. I was doing commercials. That was paying the bills.
Mhm.
Nashville was going to, I was sure, but it meant really leaving behind my acting world and pursuing just music. And I chose to stay in LA because of where I was in my career at that moment. And I just didn't see when I weighed it out that I should make that move. Um, I don't know that I have many regrets in life, and I certainly don't regret that at all that I didn't. But I do know that that was a big decision to make, and I could have gone there and collaborated in songwriting and other things in the country music, Delta blues music genre. But yeah, I stayed in LA and really focused on what was doing there, and didn't want to leave the years of what I had applied to that.
And because is that a choice between heart and the brains? You knew that you're building a career and it paid for because it got your income. That's what the acting part is. But your heart said, okay, I want to play music. I mean, that's how it sounds like a bit. Was that the decision you had to make?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's so funny. The heart really, as we talked a bit earlier, that was always predominant, the music side. So that certainly speaks to my heart and from my family to performing or whatever. The brain was what would be the wisest move
Yeah.
and what have you put the work and energy into? And interesting, the industry acting world, they estimate that 150,000 people a year move to New York or LA to get into the business. And I think right now on the Internet Movie Database, there are 30 plus million women and men in the database. So you've got a lot of people trying to pursue acting. And out of that world, less than 5% will ever earn one check. And so you're talking a very small few who really can get to where you want to go. And the sad part is they're super talented people that never get a job and should, but for a variety of reasons, right place, right time. Is it meant to be the network you've aligned yourself with? And for me, when I arrived in LA, a producer director I've worked with a great deal, Mike Elliott, got me right into working for a production company, Corman Pictures, New Horizons, owned by Roger Corman. At the time, I didn't know he really just did low budget movies, not a lot of money in it, but it was able to get me into the union. And in the union, that's like a catch 22. To get in the union, you have to have had a speaking part in a film. And to get a speaking part in the film, you need to be in the union. And they organized that I got into the union. So by the time I had done that and learned so much, you're right, back to your question. The brain was, I've applied myself, worked hard at this, and if you will, polished that craft. And back to what my dad said, stay focused and
Yeah.
don't put yourself everywhere.
Now you mentioned your dad a couple of times. Is that also the a prominent person you seek advice with?
Absolutely. Because he was such a performer himself and had accomplished great things, then took that talent and went into the gospel music world and recorded albums, worked in Nashville. But yeah, he was between my dad and his dad, my grandfather, they had a massive impact in my life, and they both said things at different times that I carry to this day in my heart and live by, and know that their direction many times was priceless. They both, my dad in particular, when I said I was moving to LA to pursue acting,
Yeah.
a lot of parents would go, okay, get a real job, dreamer, it's never going to happen. And he was absolutely 100% supportive of me doing it.
Supportive in the sense that, okay, I think you're going to make it, or supportive in, okay, you're allowed to follow your dream and we'll see what happens.
I had a couple opportunities that were waiting for me, and I think he said immediately, "Look, they're there waiting for you." As I said, the door had
Yeah.
opened,
Yeah.
a crack in the door, and he saw that immediately as I did. Look, if you're going to do it, you need to do it now. And supportive, he always, both my parents and my grandparents and family were extremely supportive of the gifts and talents I had and always really encouraged me to use that and saw that going somewhere. And so, yeah, it was a combination of both and his support, really, from the wisdom side and seeing in me what he believed in and knew that I had.
Yeah. Now, is this also an industry? I mean, from as a complete outsider, it it seems like you can only make it if, as you mentioned, everybody has talent, but you have to be in the right place and right moment. But does it also require you to have a piggyback ride? Somebody has to open that door for you.
I think sometimes that's really a key element. I think, like if you go there, I know loads of people who've done this, they move to LA and they start knocking on doors. And certainly there are people who can find a crack to get in, but to have someone that opens the door for you and either makes an introduction or, as I said, gets you into a film with a speaking part, gets you into the union, it's almost like having a sponsor
Yeah.
that believes in you and at least gets you started. That's really, I think, paramount. And I think then once that happens, then the network that you're building, and you find yourself rising up with a group of people, could be directors, writers, editors, stunt people, and kind of all coming up together. And so I think, yeah, it's a hardcore, tough business to
Yeah,
just get a representation like an agent or a manager. And the first thing they want to see is a resume.
yeah,
And I'll never forget, I was doing my resume, and really on my resume, it was music stuff. And I had done some regional theater. And you're trying to enhance that and make it more than it is just so you can get representation. So, yeah, to your question, it really, I think, to have someone, if you will, be your sponsor, at least to make the introductions.
good. Okay. Hey, before I completely forget this question, what film or TV work did you do where or stage work, that's the most proud, I'm the most proud of that, or if that's been given that anything which, okay, this is my top three achievement. What's the best?
Um, I would say I can give you three for sure. One of my highlights of my career was when Universal Pictures cast me in a surfing movie, Blue Crush 2. And the movie was being shot on location in South Africa.
Mhm.
And I would be there for 3 months, which was amazing. And knowing later, I didn't know this at the time, that they really, in the script, the director who I spoke of earlier, Mike Elliott, really wanted me in the film, and really specifically from the writing standpoint, wrote this character, Cowboy, that was me. And so the combination of it really being me doing what I do, and it was music in it too, and being my cowboy rugged self from where I was from, and being in South Africa, being on a film for Universal Studios, being there for 3 months, definitely a highlight in my life for sure. Um, Another great story, I got a call for a film they were doing, David and Goliath. And when I received the call from my agent to go in, it was going to be for a smaller role in the film, which is fine. And I would say anybody watching that's thinking about this business, there are no small roles. There are small people. And sometimes those roles that you think mean nothing turn out to be something absolutely amazing. So I received the call, and it was going to be basically a warrior fighter with some good dialogue, but also a lot of fight scenes and tough guy stuff. And that was exciting for me, a biblical historical film. When I went into casting for the project, and this happens a lot, another peek inside the industry. When I walked into the room, if you will, about the size of a ballroom, there were a big group of guys that were all little and younger who were Davids, that were there for David. There was a whole nother circle of guys that were massive dudes that were Goliath. There was a daughter of King Saul, all these younger, beautiful Middle Eastern or something looking girls that were going to be King Saul's daughter. There were the guys that would be King Saul. And as I sat there with the rugged, tough guy, fighter guys, I had this voice inside me say, "You're here to read for King Saul." Well, I wasn't on the schedule at all, but that voice was in me at that moment. And I looked over at the guys and I thought, well, you can't change it. And again, a peek inside. If you're there for one job, an opportunity to interview for, you don't go in and say, hey, I also want to do this. You go in and ask to do what they ask. I walked into the casting room and did the scene for this warrior tough guy. And in the room, there was the two directors of the film, a producer and a casting agent. When I finished the scene, they thought I did great. And I thanked them. I started to leave and they said, hey, Rodger, hold on. And they huddled together for about 30 seconds. And then they came back and they said, would you mind reading for another role? And I said, absolutely. And they said, we'd like you to read for King Saul. And they handed me the script, gave me a few minutes to prepare for it, came back in, and they actually cast me as King Saul in that moment. They didn't even audition the other guys. They picked me, or maybe they did, but they picked me and assigned me that day. And then I went on to be the narrator for the film. So that film was really special to me. The role that I did, there was some great scenes and monologues that really were exciting for me to do. And in the end, I loved what I was able to bring to that. And a fantastic story in that I went in for a little role and ended up with something much bigger. But that voice was inside me. And that's what, kind of going back to the beginning, I heard that calling from the beginning of my life. And there I was in the room. And Again, quoting Rumi, there's a voice that doesn't use words, listen. And when I heard you're here to read for King Saul, that came to be. The last one I would say wasn't a film, could have been, but it was easily, if not the largest, one of the largest musical productions in the world. Over 120 people in the choir, 100 plus people in the cast, 65-piece orchestra, and I was signed on to play the part of Christ. And I tell this story. I don't know, and I'm not about a religion or a church or a way, any of that. I'm about a way of life. And I'd grown up with some obviously spiritual things in my life, but doing that role before I started as a performer and actor, I decided, hey, I know what are this Bible stories I've been told, but I want to know who was the guy? What was the architectural buildup of him? And really, who was he as a man on earth? And doing that brought me to a new level, not only as a performer and what I was able to do with the role, but also that transcended into my own life. And that's why I said, I'm about a way of life. And I have a mantra that I use all the time: spread love and watch the magic happen. So I would say out of those three, and there's a lot of other ones I could tell you great things about, but those spoke to my heart. The performance was something I was very proud of, and taught me a lot about the industry and what it really is.
Okay, and what I'm also hearing in your story is how important that inner voice is to guide you to where you want to go to. To what extent is that aligned with a quote I found from you? Life's a wave, don't fight it, ride it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 100% at times, and I'm a surfer, I've surfed a lot. We look at something coming towards us, a big wave, and panic. There's fear. And we work hard, and in moments you crash, and in moments it doesn't go right. In other moments, you have the best ride of your life. And the one thing you learn about the ocean is it's moving and it's going and it's taking you, and you have two choices: fight it, struggle with it, or figure out a way to ride it. And I really believe that's our lives, and everything we go through. There are good days, there are bad days, there are things that come our direction, doors that open and doors that close. And acting world, I received a call for a hit TV show in the US. And when I went in to read for it, it was a really great role. And I was mentoring this boy who was dying of cancer. And when I went in for casting, we have this long scene where I'm talking to the boy, and the casting director was playing the part of the boy while I was on camera giving the lines as this mentor. And while I'm doing this long emotional scene, I look up at the casting director, and she's got big tears coming down her cheeks. And I think to myself, as a performer, I'm nailing it.
Nailed it.
Really, I'm nailing it right now. And when I finished, she said, wow, Rodger, that was incredible. And then this part of what she said, probably one of the greatest compliments I've ever received in the industry. She said, you are easily one of the best actors in this town. And I thought at that moment, I might as well have won the Academy Award, because she sees so many people, men, women, boys, girls, whatever. And when I left that meeting, I called my agent manager and I said, this happened. This is what she said. I was sure I got the role. There's no doubt in my mind. I did not get the role. I never received a call about that role ever again. And the reason I tell you, back to the wave part, was while that wave didn't come together the way I thought it did, there was something in that ride that gave me something that I literally am telling you today. And when we learn that in our lives and things go a direction, and riding that, and you never know where that's taking you. And sometimes what's disappointment today is actually happiness tomorrow.
Okay. Good philosophy. One more question about acting, because I don't want to make a point back to your, I'd say, other part of your career. So, have
Yep.
you ever thought about combining your various talents? I mean, reinvent Rogers, Roy Rogers, and
Roy Rogers.
becoming a singing cowboy.
That's interesting you say that. A friend of mine, I've been doing a lot of, like, in the last months, 3 or 4 months now, I've been doing a lot of short videos telling my stories, using my quotes or something in life and telling my stories. And again, I'll reference my very close friend and brother, Mike Elliott, director, producer. he said to me just recently, he said, Rodger, you really need to dive more into the cowboy thing. And yeah, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
It's sad to say I don't know today if there's such a market for that, but I think that that certainly speaks to my heart. And that's in the movie Blue Crush in South Africa. Here I was literally playing the character, the name of the character, Cowboy, and I was the singing kind of mentor to the group of surfers. And so it did combine that. And certainly, that being said, I don't know if I've ever left a project where I was literally lovesick. When it was, I have this thing in life, and I say this to anybody watching today: enjoy every moment. It obviously, as you and I know, it goes way too fast.
Yeah.
And on film or television projects, I'm literally in my brain counting the number of days left. So I enjoy every moment or the hours left. And in South Africa, I was doing that. I knew I was going to be there for 3 months, and the first month went by, and then obviously the whole time went by. But I knew I was in this very, very special moment in my own journey and to make the very most of it. And as it got closer to the end, I wanted to figure out a way to stay. And of course, the production ends, so you don't. But I literally on the plane ride home practically cried. It was like losing one of the best loves of your life, if not the best.
Hmm.
And the impact that that had. But what do they say? Don't cry, it's over. Smile, it happened.
Oh, wow. Could that maybe be a second reason why we have sequels, so the actors can get
So
back?
they can come back. You know, that's a funny thing. And you can hear this a lot in the industry. On these productions, because you're together so much of the day, you really develop relationships, friendships that you think will last forever. And I worked on a project in Romania for 3 months for Universal Studios, Scorpion King. And in while we were there, the cast, we really became close. And this has happened other times, but I'll use this as an example. Barry Bostwick, who's been in business for years, he was in Rocky Horror Picture Show, among countless other productions. He was on the film, and he and I became very good friends. And as it turns out, he and I lived literally in Malibu, minutes from each other. When we finish the production, and this is the story that speaks to this, you develop these friendships, this thing you think will last forever. When the production's over, you don't see each other again. And it's really sad because it's so temporary. In most people's lives, it's not that way. So that kind of leads me back to the industry. Um, it's hardcore. And those friendships that you have, and then they're gone. So you almost become this gypsy mentality of moving through life and leaving things behind, leaving friendships behind. Um, and you're following your passion. And as it would be, the artist can be a lonely world.
Okay. Hey, we're almost running out of time, but definitely two things, Roger, I'd like to cover with you. First of all, as mentioned in the beginning, you're the founder president of Amera Distributors, beauty industry. Is that just a different passion, or is that like an insurance?
You know, that actually, again, the way doors open in life, that wasn't something I ever pursued. I was involved at the time when we put the company together with a makeup artist and started helping her, and then found myself completely immersed in the beauty industry. I never thought of it as something I would ever do or be involved with. And
Yeah.
equally at the time, I didn't think of it as an insurance in what I did. And actually, I took all of my talents and gifts that I use in performing and presenting and talking and really parlayed that into the beauty industry and what I did. And that was a huge success for me in the way that I was able to do that and use my social skills and accomplish things because based on my passion and my social skills that might be very difficult for others. But we revolutionized the industry. We created a new beauty product that was nothing like, and that was putting makeup products in an aerosol container. And we were the first to do it. So being part of the innovation beauty industry would have never guessed it in my life, but something I'm just as passionate about today in terms of because I was there when that baby was born.
Okay, that sounds like almost a topic for a next episode, Roger, because I do want to end with one final question for you, and that is, what would your advice to young people out there who are considering a career in acting? Any guidelines, lessons learned, any mentoring tips you can give people?
I think the first thing I always say to people is get involved in your local theater. And that doesn't matter if it's the smallest production, a little school play, a local theater with 10 people in it. And the reason I say that is you're working on your craft, but you're also learning to work with other people. You're understanding roles and how they're important, staging and where you are. There's so many tricks of the trade you learn doing that are valuable to you. The other thing, when you're doing that, you're performing for a crowd. And there's something so rewarding in that. You're getting immediate gratification for the hard work and passion you put into it. And oftentimes in the film and television industry, you're not seeing a finished product that goes to the crowd till way later. And back to the Universal movies, Studios movies I've worked on, I do them, we finish them. A year or more later, they're released on Netflix or wherever in the world. And I have no idea who sees them, who doesn't, if they liked it, if they didn't. And so in theater, as an artist, which we need, you're getting that applause. You're getting that positive energy from the crowd, which is great. And I think the other thing that I always tell people, if that's what you want, then just like I did with music, start working on it every day. And on the days when it's not happening, and polishing your craft, reading everything you can about how to be better at performing, and then the tricks of the trade. And that could be easily, this is one little one, but when you're on camera and you're off camera and you're reading lines, it's really important for you to be as close to camera lens as possible. So I'm looking almost in lens, but I'm not. So it's great for the camera to see that, but I'm not looking at the camera. It's a little tiny trick, but there's thousands of those that you learn that make you better. And it's the little things. I did a commercial here in Norway for a fantastic director, Harold Zwart, for Norse Tipping. And when I moved to Norway, and I didn't think I was really going to be doing a lot of acting here because I don't speak Norwegian, and there's a lot less of that going on here than in the States. To my surprise, I woke up one morning and I had a text from a production company in Oslo asking me if I would want to do this commercial for Norse Tipping. And the commercial was this American guy talking about why Norwegians win all the gold medals at the Winter Olympics. And it was a fun commercial. When we shot the commercial, and again, these are things you learn by doing it every day. I didn't know these things in the beginning. And I worked with a couple guys who one of them was his first job, really. And when I'm seated at the table and we're shooting the scene, where I put my cup down, what did I just eat? How many bites did I take? Where was my arm in the middle of that scene? Because when they edit later, it needs to match. We'll do 3 or 4 takes and they maybe do it from different angles, a wider shot, but everything needs to match. And so for the person, the young person or adult that wants to get into this business, there are so many key elements to the job that are outside of just being an actor and that you're remembering. And Harold Zwart said to me, he goes, wow, you're a pro. But I learned that and now I do it naturally. And the old thing of less is more. If I have a cup in front of me, I'm not constantly drinking. I might do 1 or 2 sips because I know I need to remember those 2 sips when they do the wide shot or they do the close up. So I think that for anybody wanting to chase that dream, that's important. And then knowing that it's brutal, it is brutal, and there's a million other things you should try and do that will reward you financially or reward you with a steady job. And the way I would sum it up, so brutal is the business that you can win the Academy Award, the Golden Globe, the Screen Actors Guild. You could be at Cannes with a fantastic celebrated film and be out of work tomorrow and not get a job. And it's the only business, music and film, television, that is like that. If you in the podcast world or a doctor or an architect are lifted up and celebrated by the community as being the best, you're not going to be out of a job tomorrow. You'll be able to work and use that to get other work and do more architectural drawings or whatever that is. The industry that I worked in and have worked in most of my life can be your friend and lover today and gone tomorrow. And then Father Time marches on and the roles get less and less or whatever. So if that's what someone wants, and I live and breathe it, I've done it and walk the walk, it is the most rewarding thing in the world when you're standing in South Africa or Romania or on a soundstage at the back lot of the Universal or Paramount, and you're reaching and accomplishing your dreams. But in that, it's also the worst lover in the world.
Rodger, thank you so much for sharing your life story so far. And I think we have a sequel in the air somewhere.
Perfect.
So,
I would love that.
again, thank you so much for being on The Brand Called You. Ladies and gentlemen, Rodger Halston.
Thank you. Have a great day. Love and light.
Thank you for listening to The Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.